And we are live, and we immediately will have two people. Again, for the people that are here already, I am just going to give us a little bit of time to let a couple people get in to the show before we formally start. Just, 15, 20 seconds. We do already have a couple people in, so I think we are all right up to 3, so we are going to go ahead and start. So, hello, ladies and gentlemen of Vanderbilt, and welcome to Terrier Talk, Season 2, Episode 21. And I'm joined by my guest for this week, Nick Marley. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Star goalkeeper of the boys' soccer team. So let's talk about that star thing for a second.
Mm-hmm.
A bright future for you going into your next couple years in your career, and you have a lot of scholarship offers for, including one from a Division I school in UAB. Mm-hmm. So is there anything?
It's not an offer yet, but they're recruiting.
Oh, okay.
And I'm going to recruiting camp.
Awesome. But there is definitely a potential future there. And of course, one thing mentioned by one of the viewers, Barker Hunter Player of the Week nominee, with a great week this week against both Newman and Terrebonne. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But lots of accolades, a really bright future going into college. So is there anything different? Like, I know you've been playing for a while now, obviously playing soccer for a long time, but is there anything different now that you know there's a serious future going into next season that maybe some of the people around you don't like?
Oh yeah. Every game is a big challenge. I mean, every game I know that I cannot let goals in. I know people are watching me. I know film will get out. I know that, I mean, even to a regular game in the Karen Crow tournament, I had 2 college coaches go out there to watch our team play because I had contacted them. So even that game was very nerve-wracking and all that, knowing that people are watching you the whole game, and if you mess up, they're going to point it out. So every game, I just come out to play. The whole team does. We make sure that we know we have to win. And that's pretty much it.
Definitely. And the entire team has been very successful so far. You guys are through its 22 games so far, 14, 2-6,
right.
With only 2 losses. An incredible record, and you guys are first place right now in your ratings. Experienced team, a lot of seniors, and you have a chance to do something really great. So you guys have had a lot of success. You talked about the scouts. You talked about how the older you get, the more people come to watch you, and it kind of gets more and more pressure. There becomes more and more pressure, and there definitely is a difference with that, and I can definitely see that just from. We don't see that a lot with some of the other sports, but right now with you guys, that is the case, and that's first of all, congratulations for that. It's an opportunity not a lot of people get, so you being able to do that is great. But it's a great job what you've been doing so far. But let's talk about that Newman game for a second.
Yeah.
Both Newman and Terrebonne, we won the games 1-0 and 3-0 respectively. But in the Newman game specifically, 1-0 against a very strong team.
Oh yeah.
You had 13 saves, which is an incredible number. And when you're playing a team like that, first of all, when in the game was that goal scored?
The goal was scored second half, about middle way through second half, maybe a little bit towards the beginning of the second half. So it was a relieving goal just to get it.
So first of all, that's huge. It's kind of like my guess would be, obviously I've never actually done it before, but if I had to guess, kind of like when you're a reliever in baseball, someone and you get that one run to ease off the pressure, or even being a starting pitcher, no matter when you are playing. But 2/3 into the game, and if you don't make a mistake, you win the game. And Newman is pressuring you the entire game. Again, save. You need a save. You need a save. You need a save, and you keep delivering. First of all, congratulations. But second of all, what is going through your head? You hinted at it a little bit, but what are you thinking when that clock is ticking down to minute 70, minute 71, and you're getting towards the end of that game?
When I was in that game, my mindset was once we got that first goal, I wanted to keep it level because I knew that we had scorers, James, Brian, all those people up top, and I knew that we would get a goal because that's just how we play. I mean, we barely lose. So I was like, okay, we're gonna get a goal eventually. I'm trying to get the team together. Make sure even at halftime, keep the heads up. It's 0-0. It's anyone's game. And I mean, Newman, their record doesn't do them justice. They're so good. I mean, they beat Denham Springs last week 2-0, another great team. So we knew that win was amazing. And like through the whole game, once we scored, it was 1-0. And, they'd shoot on me. And I'm just thinking, like, it's 1-0. And I have friends on the other team, too. So I'm thinking, like, I can't let them win.
Right.
So every time you just, like, you got to save it.
Not just a friendly rivalry there, but also there's a bit of a confidence when you have that elite of a record and that great of a team around you.
Right.
You know that the guys, not just they know that you're going to make sure to keep them up and you're not going to let them down, but you know that they're not going to let you down. They're going to give you that insurance, at least enough to win. And Newman's a great team. You hinted at that. The Denham Springs game, a shared victory, common victory between both of you, but also a common goal differential, both winning by 2 goals.
Right, yeah.
So going into the game, definitely could see a similar quality of team, and Newman showed it. They played hard, lots of shots on goal, and you guys had, and your play was a large reason why you guys were successful and ended up winning.
And I mean, the defense did amazing in both games, Terrebonne and Newman.
Right.
Jonathan and Carter back there, there's a really good matchup, both of them. And they're both tall, they win headers, so it's really good to have them back there.
Yeah. A couple of them mentioning the defensive play throughout the comments. But outside of that, yes, definitely I haven't had a chance to see a lot of your games so far, but from what I've heard, the entire team as a whole has been great.
Really good.
Even to an elite level.
Oh, yeah. Even the little kids. I mean, I'm talking sophomores, freshmen. I think we have some 8th graders on the team. I mean, everyone's playing to the best of their ability, and you can tell. I mean, our record can tell. In practice, you can tell. I mean, everyone's just working their butts off. They know what we want. We all know what we've been working for. We got robbed of it in the semis last year, 1-0 by Loyola. And, I mean, we got the target on our back. We're number 1 in the coaches poll, number 1 in power rankings. We've played 22 games and lost twice. Our last loss was in the beginning of December.
Yeah.
So it's almost been, a whole month or so.
Been nearly a month and a half at this point.
Yeah.
And one thing about, I talked about it last year a little bit. It was kind of a young team last year. Not completely young, had a lot of juniors, but still some freshmen, still some 8th graders playing. The thing is, when you have a young team one year, the next year it's an experienced team.
Right, yeah.
A team with a lot of experience, only 3 seniors, if I recall correctly.
Right, yeah. We were not supposed to go as far as we did.
Right.
We upset St. Louis.
That St. Louis game among the best of the entire year from Vanderbilt, in my opinion. The set pieces, preventing those, the late goal, and then that victory, an amazing game.
Right.
And a great upset. But you guys were kind of young last year, and the thing about young teams is when you grow, when you get experience, now you're peaking.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of seniors have all the experience you need to make a run.
Oh, yeah.
So it should be a great season for you guys moving forward. Obviously, you have some very important games in the future. You start out district this year, and I want to hear a little bit about this. So you have district against Pearl River. It's at Pearl River?
It is at Pearl River.
And you changed districts this year. So I don't want to say what's the deal with that, but like what happened? Is there a why? Is there a how?
There's no really why. It just kind of happened. I mean, we had been in that district for a long time. I mean, Edie White, they usually won the district. We just changed it, and now we're with the district. I mean, the teams are further away, but I mean, we've already played 2 district games, won both of them 8-0. So now we play Pearl River Wednesday, and then we play Noma Friday and Archbishop Hannon Monday. So those will be better tests. I mean, Pearl River's not as good as they usually are this year. But Noma, they're still, really solid.
Noma's, I've looked at it a bit. Noma seems like an outside, like a rank outsider going into state.
Another team where, I mean, I know a player or 2 on that team, so it's going to be a fun, one of those rivalries.
So you've talked a lot about, you talked a good bit about knowing some players from other teams. Is that from club sports?
Okay. Me and James play Louisiana Fire Club together.
Okay.
So we know a bunch of the outside people from teams all around the state.
So, yeah, that's great. That's extra experience, of course, and you definitely, both of you especially, have shown it on the field, being seen as you've been seen as an elite goalkeeper throughout state, and that's you've done a great job. So congratulations for that. You've had a great season thus far, and I hope you and the entire boys soccer team continues that throughout. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you,
and congratulations. So. Nick, unlike some others, first of all, do you want your water?
Sure.
Nick, unlike most others, actually will stay in the room. He's not going to stay on the screen, but he will stay here. So thank you again. I'm saying this kind of to his face, but thank you, Tim, for coming on the show again. Had a lot of comments. A lot of it was just back and forth between different viewers, so I didn't respond to a lot of it. But either way, even if the comments or questions are not directed to me, still thank you to everyone for interacting and making this feel a little bit more lively. I really like that. So thank you to everyone for doing that, whether that's John, Patrick, or usernames that I cannot tell who that person is. Thank you to everyone. One person mentioned if an 8th grader can come on. It's definitely something I'm going to do in the future. I'm not sure what week. I have a little bit of a schedule starting to get figured out here, but it is definitely something that I want to do. So I'll talk about that later on. Now, this week, of course, we had Nick, but we'll talk about that in the future. It was Will Luke that asked, and I think so, because I think junior high sports is something, I mentioned this last week. Junior high sports is something, you guys are the future of Vanderbilt, and it's a different kind of entertainment watching you guys. I know a lot of you are watching the show from watching varsity sports, different level of competition, but it's still very fun, still very entertaining, and there's a certain kind of energy that you guys bring that's unique to junior high sports. So I definitely love to have one of you guys on at some point. I know both the 8th grade and 7th grade basketball teams have had a lot of success this season. So one of you guys at some point, for sure, definitely. Not sure what week, but I'll see what I can do. So moving on to other sports, we talked about boys soccer. We talked about the Terrebonne and Newman games with Nick. Moving on to girls soccer, an interesting week for girls soccer. It did not begin, but the marquee game for this week was the game against Central Lafourche, which ended in a loss, 2-1. One thing I heard about it was it's might say a little bit more about Central Lafourche than it does about Vanderbilt. Central Lafourche had a very good game. They end up with victory against. Remember, this isn't us playing against a great program. Excuse me. It's Central Lafourche playing against us, a great program. We were seen as the favorites. They knock us off, and that's big for them. It's kind of like when we go and play St. Scholastica, or when we go and play Mount Carmel, and I'll talk about that game later on. But I think it says more about Central Lafourche than about us as a game itself, as an event. So congratulations to them. Obviously unfortunate for us. And some of these losses are mounting up a little bit so far this season, which may come as a cause for concern. But I think it's not nearly as concerning as maybe some people might see it. We're losing to some more teams than we wish, but we had 2 other games this week. Both of them 8-0 wins against Terrebonne and against Eleanor. The Eleanor game being I'm pretty sure a district game. And the thing is, people might be concerned with the losses in Lafourche, the losses earlier this season to other teams that maybe we shouldn't have lost to. But this girls' soccer team is still elite and is still crushing the vast majority of the competition they face. You aren't concerned about a season after 2 8-0 victories in the same week, no matter who those 8-0 victories are against. Terrebonne and Eleanor aren't very good teams, but it still shows that we do dominate this city, we do dominate this region overall, and that's important. Even if we have some games that aren't exactly up to our expectations, it's still a very good game, still a very good season so far, and we still have a chance to do something great with this girls' soccer team. We talked about it with the boys' soccer team. They have a chance to do something great, and both soccer teams have that chance this season. And both of them have been playing very well, even if some of the games for the girls haven't turned out the way they want them to. Moving on to girls, moving on to boys basketball. We had 2 games this week, one on Tuesday, one on Friday. First off, finishing off a very long roadstead at L.W. Higgins in New Orleans. I said it last week. I couldn't find them on MatchPreps, but I learned a little bit more about them. They're a pretty formidable team. They went to the finals of a tournament that we were a middling team in at the Brother Martin tournament. They got the tar beaten out of them in that finals game against Brother Martin. And we saw that game, we saw their struggles, and we thought this would be a potential, a good chance for a victory. We then get to the game, and it's much more of a struggle than we thought it would be. We are ice cold from the field goal percentage, I guess you want to say, from the court. We were 1 for 15 from the 3-point line. That one hit being at the very end of the game, kind of in garbage time, we're down by 30. We end up losing the game by about 30 points. The thing is, I don't know if we're a better team than LW Higgins, but we're definitely not 30 points worse than them. They were absolutely on fire all game. I didn't keep track of their misses, but they were probably around 50% from the 3-point line this game. They hit like 7 of them. It was an incredible shooting performance from them, from a team that didn't show this in some of their previous games. And it was not that same performance from us. So that's a bit of a concerning game, but a lot of those concerns were washed away by the game Friday night. And many of you probably know the result of the game and might be questioning that, but even though we lost the game to a team we already beat earlier this season, the context surrounding the game and statistics within the game show that this was the best game that we have played all season. So a little bit of context. We played St. Charles very early on in the season. We ended up beating them. It was our first win early on in December. But at that point, it was the state championship game week for St. Charles, and they were in the state championship, so they didn't have any of their football players. They come here, and all of their football players, they have 6, and they're all varsity. That's their entire varsity team, basically. And so all their varsity players moved down to JV that we played in the first time we played them back in December, and it's a completely different team. They're bigger than us. They look stronger than us. They look faster than us. They're just a bigger team. We looked visibly mismatched going into it. Despite the fact that we beat them, we looked mismatched. We go into the game, and we come out on fire. We are playing like an offense with chemistry that we have not had all season. We finished the first quarter up 11-2. The best defensive play I've seen from any team at any point in time this season in boys basketball, and the offense was clicking enough. 11 points isn't good in boys basketball. That leads to an average of 44 points, but it's enough when you're holding the other team to 2 points in the first quarter to be enough to be winning. We're winning by 9, of course, a very good first quarter, a great first quarter even. The offense was clicking enough. It was meshing well. All 5 of our baskets, we had 5 2-point baskets and a free throw in the first quarter. All 5 of those baskets were off of assists, which means this wasn't just one person getting open or one person draining a 3. We don't have that on the team anymore. So that's not going to happen. The way we get buckets is from running our plays correctly, running our plays efficiently, and having the entire offense mesh as one whole. So that is what our offense can be in the future, and that's how we can find success. And we did it against a very good St. Charles team in that first quarter. The second quarter and the third quarter were a little bit more of a struggle. They started getting hot on defense. We were running a 2-3 for part of the game, and they were capitalizing on that with 3-pointers. But something I noticed throughout the game, they were not getting second chance points. And I'll talk about that a little bit more at the end. Our defensive play, even when they were getting hot, was very, very solid. It was very, very good. It was great even. And we go into halftime, then the second quarter, down 21-18, but feeling like we can go out there and compete with them for another half, even though they outscored us by, 12 points in the second quarter. We're okay with it. We can just take it stride by stride. We ended up down by about, 12-14 going into the third quarter, going into the fourth quarter, but we battle back, we compete, we close the deficit to 2, and a couple of things happen. We drain a 3 to get it within 3 points, and we eventually do come up short. Their free throw shooters were too good. We only allowed 1 basket in the fourth quarter. All the rest of their points, I think they had 11 in the fourth quarter. 9 of those were free throws. 7 of those were won by one player, And so very solid defense in the fourth quarter, very solid play throughout the entire game for the most part. And even though we came up short, There were signs within this game that were absolutely incredible for this team. That shows we have a way to win games. We're struggling right now. We have, I don't know the exact record, but it's somewhere along the lines of like 5-15, 5-14. Not a very good record. We're struggling, but we have a way to win games against very good teams. St. Charles is a very good team. And we went out there and we competed with them for 4 quarters. And we had a chance to win against what is a talent-wise better team. So that is something that is a very good sign. That statistic I was bringing up earlier about offensive rebounds, they didn't have second chance points throughout the game at all. And it brings up a statistic that I think is incredible. We held them to 0 offensive rebounds the entire game, which is a phenomenal stat. That is unheard of in basketball. And it was the reason that we won, that we came close to winning this game, that we were competing for so long. So it just very, very impressive from us. Unfortunate that we couldn't get the win, but the future might be brighter than what our record entails at this point. So I wish them the best of luck going into next week. We do have a couple of games near the end of this week that are both very winnable, and we'll talk about that later on. Finally, girls basketball had a couple of games this week. One against Ben Franklin and one against Central Catholic. And the box score from this game shows that it was one of those girls basketball games that just didn't have a lot of parity in them. We're a good girls basketball team, very fun to watch, but we're a good girls basketball team. We'll get the score run up on us by some teams. We'll run up the score on some teams as well. It just depends. And Ben Franklin and Central Catholic were kind of in the latter category. I think Central Catholic, I see them as a decent team, but we showed that we have a very high ceiling when it comes down to that. We ended up winning that game 69-31. So a very impressive game in that way. Do I have that score correct? I apologize. 61-39, excuse me. And then we won 52-38, if I recall correctly, in the other game. So a team, I talked about it last week when I had Leah and Kate on, a team that has struggled at times to score points, especially against teams that put up good competition, and both these teams, well, Central Catholic at the very least put up some good competition on Friday. Those woes were not there this week at the very least, which is a very good thing going into some very important games in district, and I'll talk about that later on. But the girls are in great shape, 2 very, very solid wins, and they have a chance to make a run, and they're getting momentum at the right time going into very important district games. So moving on to the preview, just a couple of other sports to talk about. Girls and boys bowling have matches against Central Lafourche at Charlie's Lanes on Wednesday, so best of luck to them. Boys golf has tryouts at Allendale this week, so best luck to the boys there as well. But then moving on to boys soccer, I'm just going to briefly mention this. I talked about this with Nick when he was on, but they have a bit of a busy week. Games at Pearl River, against Noma, some very solid teams in general. So best of luck to the boys there. Again, we went into this to more extent earlier on in the episode. There's also, Nick's actually in the room, so correct me if I'm wrong on this, a tournament at Terrebonne on Saturday? No, there isn't? Okay, well, calendar wasn't correct. Anyway, Nick can fact check me on that, and thank you to him for doing that. Moving on to boys basketball, the 2 games I mentioned earlier on as being very winnable are against West St. John on Friday and Point Capite on Saturday. The Point Capite game was moved due to weather, I think, from a couple of weeks ago to this Saturday. So that game is now, of course, instead of before. And the best of luck to the Terriers for both of those games. They're both winnable, and if we play like we did against St. Charles, they're both games that we should win. If we bring that level of intensity, that level of effort, that level of team chemistry, we can beat some very solid teams. And these are 2 games that are very winnable. So hopefully we come out and play the same just like we did in those games. And if we do, we can come away with 2 victories. Girls basketball, a much more intense week, I guess I'll say, than boys basketball. Girls, they begin with a big game versus Assumption on Tuesday to kick off district. I don't remember the last time a basketball team has beaten Assumption in a varsity game. But if there's a year for us to do it, it's this year. We're on probably a 4+ game losing streak against them in basketball, in girls basketball at the very least. And the thing is, this girls basketball team, with the momentum that we have, if we can get this offense together, and I think we are, this girls basketball team has the chance to do some great things against a very good Assumption team. They've been very good for a very long time. We came up just short in the game last year at Assumption. They ended up, I think we were up by like 5 or 3 with about 3 minutes left, and then one player went off for them at the very end, and they ended up winning the game by about 5-6. My numbers might be slightly off, but that's what I vaguely remember from that game. We played hard, we played close with them, and we just came up short at the end. But now that entire core, only losing one starting senior last year, that entire core is a whole year older, kind of similar to the boys soccer team. That entire core, lots of seniors peaking at the right time, peaking at this season with a chance to get a big, big victory against Assumption in that game. So I wish them the best of luck. Very important game, kicks off district, begins district play for us. And hopefully we can take that momentum both offensively and defensively from the previous week to a big victory on Tuesday. That game is at home, so best of luck to them for that. Then we have Morgan City. We travel to Morgan City on Friday. It's another solid team in district, not quite the district favorites, but still very solid. But it's a team that we still have a chance to beat. I legitimately think we can compete with every single team we play in district this season. It obviously depends on how we play, who shows up, who doesn't, but Morgan City's one of those teams. They're solid. They're not great, but they're solid that we can compete with and we can beat. It's definitely plausible for us to finish this week 2-0 in district and going into some big games later on with a lot of momentum. Around this point in the season last year, we won like 7 games in a row. We'll see if we can do a similar thing now. Very big games, very important games, but they're games that we can win, both hosting Assumption and at Morgan City. Then we have girls soccer, probably just for their district nomination and coming on Tuesday versus South Terrebonne. But then best of luck to them for that. I don't want to say it's a very big game because it's not a very big game. Our district just isn't very competitive for girls soccer. But still, it's a district game, so best of luck to them to compete in that. They also have the main event for this week. It was a game I hinted at before, but it's also a very important game now at Mount Carmel on Saturday. This game is huge. Mount Carmel's a top 3 team in the top division this year, and they're a perennial powerhouse in girls soccer. And last year, a very good game, a top-tier game, just from an entertainment perspective. Last season, we were down 2-0 at halftime, and we stormed back to tie them 2-2 at the end of the game. So similar to the St. Scholastic game, where last year we were blown out 5-0. This year we come back and beat them 2-0. We have a chance against Mount Carmel to do something great. It's a great team. It's a pair of great programs, elite programs, but we have a chance to put ourselves on the put ourselves on the map in Louisiana, just like that St. Scholastic game before, and get a big win against a big team. There probably isn't a single bigger when it comes to just the 2 programs than that game this week. That's why it's the main event, and that's why there's so much behind it, so much going into it. It's not a game going into potential state playoff situations, but it's still huge for PowerPoints, still huge for a lot, just bragging rights really for both teams. They're only about an hour away from each other. So it's a really big game. It's a really important game, and I wish them the best of luck going into it. It's winnable. Every team is beatable in the state of Louisiana for this girls' soccer team. I think that's true for the boys' soccer team as well. And this game can show it if we can go out there and beat Mount Carmel. I think we can do it. There probably is a little bit of a heated rivalry here after the game last year, and I wish them the best of luck. So, of course, I wish everyone the best of luck, all the Terriers competing this week, and I hope to see you guys next week, same time, same channel. I'll see you then.